Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play Summertime Blues. So needless to say, this is one of those feel-good summertime songs, and I gotta say that Matt's arrangement really translates that vibe, that feel of summertime that you heard on the original recording. I think he did such a great job grabbing that feel and putting it onto a solo ukulele piece. Now, I did get a chance to play through the entire arrangement, and obviously it's a lot of fun to play. But I think one of the coolest things is that it's a nice mix of finger picking and strumming. So you get to work on both styles of playing in this tune. And I'd say it's probably best suited for the seasoned beginner player. Now, if you're wondering how I define the beginner, intermediate, and advanced player and what each level should be working on before advancing to the next, click this link to find out. So let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So Matt's going to be teaching you how to play the entire arrangement in this video, but if you want to get the tabs to print out and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Summertime Blues. Now also on that page will be the on-screen tab player. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt to teach you how to play this, and then I'll see you at the end of the video.
Today we're going to work on a solo arrangement of Summertime Blues. Let's go ahead and start with the intro, which uses a little bit of strumming. Now the first technique we're going to use is actually called a chunk. If you don't know how to do this, check out the description down below where you can find a tutorial video on it. The first chord is going to be a C. Just take your ring finger, place it on the 3rd fret of the A string. We're going to use that said chunk technique. Then we're going to come up, then down, then up again. And then we're going to do a down strum on an F chord. And to do this, we leave our ring finger where it is, add our index finger on the 1st fret of the E string, and add your middle finger to the 2nd fret of the G string, and do a down strum there. And that's actually that whole measure. So it should sound something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going right into the second measure, it's going to move to a G chord. So all 3 of these fingers have to move. What I like to do though is you see this ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string? Just move that up to 3 on the E and use that as sort of a brace point for your index to kick over to the 2nd fret of the C and your middle finger to go to the 2nd fret of the A. We're going to do the same sort of chunk, then up, down, up on this chord. Then a down on a C, taking that ring finger, moving it back down to the 3rd fret of the A string, take the other fingers off. So that sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now let's go ahead and hear measures 1 and 2 together. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now at this point, it actually repeats. We go back to measure 1. So after we played measures 1 and 2, we go back to measure 1. Play that just the same way we played it a moment ago. But now instead of going on to measure 2, we go to the second ending, which is measure 3. And it starts off the same exact way. We still go to our G chord, we do a chunk, up, and then we do a down on the C chord. But now instead of just holding that C chord for 2 beats, we're going to follow it all off with the open on the A and the open on the G to start the melody. Now if you're playing a low G ukulele, you'll notice this is going to sound quite a bit different. I recommend using a high G to get that melody note. But that's going to be measure 3, which sort of finishes that intro section. So let's hear measure 3 on its own. It should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And now so that we can hear it, here's the entire intro. So measures 1, then 2, repeat to 1, and then straight to 3. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now we go on from here to melody B, which is the verse and chorus of the song. It's really the meat and potatoes of the vocal part. At this point, we're going to go away from strumming. We'll kind of come back to it as we go through, but starting with measure 4, it's actually pretty straightforward. We're going to play our C chord, same way we did before, ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string. Strum through all 4 strings. I like to use my thumb all the way through. And then I'm going to play that 3 on the A 3 more times. Then open on the A, open on the G, and open on the E. So really straightforward, just one note being fretted that whole time. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into measure 5, we're going to play the C5 chord. All that we do is take our ring finger here and place it on the 3rd fret of the E string. Strum through our G, C, and E, stopping on the A. Play the 3 on the E 3 more times. Open on the E. 2 on the C with our middle finger. Then open on the C. That should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. So here's measures 4 and 5 together. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, when we go on to measure 6, it's actually going to be exactly the same as measure 1. Exactly identical in every single way, which is awesome. A little bit of a strum fill. So we play measure 6, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Exactly the same way as we played the previous measure, right? Measure 1. Now we look at measure 7. Measure 7 is almost the same as measures 2 and 3, but a little bit different at the end. It's going to start the same with the same G chord, using the chunk and strumming to the C. So chunk up, down to the C. But then it's going to immediately play open on the G and open on the A and open on the G again. But otherwise, that is exactly the same except for those last 3 notes. So measure 7 is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. You'll notice it's really quick into that open G, open A, open G for the melody. But here's what measures 6 and 7 sound like when you play them all the way through together. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now what I like to do for playing that, you'll notice I use my thumb on the G, and then I'll use my index on the A, just so that I don't have to jump around so much. Whatever works for you, though, works great for the song, as long as you can get those melody notes. So now from here, what we're going to go on to is measure 8. And on measure 8, it's actually a lot like measure 4, just some different orderings of notes. We're going to play our same C chord, 3rd fret on the A string with our ring finger, strum through with our thumb. 3 on the A 2 more times. And then open A, open G twice, and then open A, or excuse me, open E. And so that sounds something like this when you play measure 8 in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going in right into measure 9. Measure 9 is actually exactly the same as measure 5, which is pretty great. Exactly identical, right? So let's go ahead and hear measures 8 and 9 in time. Again, you'll notice that 9 is very similar to 4. It's just some small variations that are being created. And between you and I, if you do something a little bit off, like maybe you play the wrong string or something else, oftentimes it can sound just fine because it's more about the variation being created in the melody than it is anything else. Because we don't have any words associated with it, you can have some freedom with it. But to play it exactly as written, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's going through measures 8 and 9. Now from here we go on to measure 10. And what's convenient about measure 10 is it should look very familiar. It's exactly the same as measure 6 and measure 1, identical in every way. Then as we go on to measure 11, same sort of deal. It starts off the same as measure 7 did, which is doing the G chord to the C. But then it changes just a little bit. It's going to go 1 on the E twice to be the very end of that. So I just like to add my index finger there to that first fret. So measures 10 and 11 should sound something like this when you play them through. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, from this, it sort of goes on to the chorus. They kind of, move into each other as you're playing through it. But we're going to go on to measure 12. And on measure 12, we're going to hold an F chord. And to do this, we're going to take our middle finger, place it on the 2nd fret of the G string, take your index finger on the 1st fret of the E string. And we're going to hold this chord for a little while here. We're going to play the 2 on the G, the 0 on the C, and the 1 on the E together with our thumb, stopping on the A. Then we're going to play that E note 4 more times. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total played there. 4 individually on the 1 of the E. Then we're going to play open on the C to finish that measure. So measure 12 should sound something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... From here we go on to measure 13. We're just going to add that 3rd fret with our ring finger on the A string again. Now, this is played earlier in the song. If this is really challenging for you, it's okay to substitute the pinky there, but I'd recommend trying to get the flexibility, some yoga for your fingers basically, to get that 3rd fret on the A string. And what we're going to do here is we're going to play through all 4 strings. 3 on the A 3 more times. Then open on the A, just take that finger off. And then 1 on the E to finish that measure. So measure 13 should sound something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And so that you can hear it, here is 12 and 13. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going right into 14, still holding the same F chord. This is in the original recording when they go down low with the voice. Obviously, we can't do that on our ukuleles because we're playing this as an instrumental, but we still get the same spirit with this F chord. And on 14, we're going to play G, C, and E, still holding the F. E string then 5 times. And that's all there is to measure 14. Should sound something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And then going right into 15, you can hear I'm already wanting to go there. 15 is going to be the same thing, it's still this F chord. We're going to play our G, C, and E strings. And then E on, or 1 on the E 2 more times, followed by 1 more for a total of 3. And then we're going to do a down up on this F chord. So measure 15 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And here's the pair of those now. 14 and 15 together should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going right into 16, we're going to start this off with a down strum with our index finger. Then we're going to play 1 on the E 3 times. We're going to play open on the C, and then 1 on the E. So 16 in time should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into 17 now, we're going to add that ring finger, or pinky if it's a little easier for you, on the 3rd fret of the A string. Strum through all 4 with our thumb. Then the 3 on the A 3 times. Then we're going to switch chords to a new one. It's called a G7 sus2. Sounds really spicy and hard, but all that you do is take your ring finger off of your F and move your middle finger down to 2 on the C. So it's 0, 2, 1, 0. Strum through all 4 strings. Then open on the G twice. And then open on the A once. So measure 17 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... So measures 16 and 17 now as the pair should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Little home stretch here now. We're going to go to the C and we're going to do, the iconic part of this song, right? And so the way that we're going to play this is we start with a C chord, 3rd fret on the A string, all 4 strings through. Play the 3 on the A again. We're going to play open on the A. And for the rest of this little 2-bar stretch, we're not going to play any other fretted notes. Kind of cool. So we played that open A, and we're going to play open G, followed by open C. So that sounds something like this in time. Measure 18, 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going into 19, which is my favorite of the song because it sounds cool and it's all open strings. We're just going to play our open E, open G, open E, and then open C. So in time, that's something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Pretty neat. Here's 18 and 19, which really is my favorite stretch. It should sound like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... So from this point, we're going to go on to the first ending of this song. And the first ending is going to look very familiar because, well, it's the same stuff that we've been playing throughout the earlier sections. If we look now at measure 20, we can see that measure 20 is actually the same thing that we played as measure 1. And we played it again on what other measures? We did it on measure 1, we did it on measure 6, we did it on measure 10. It's all over the place, right? And so when we play this now on measure 20, we're going to do that chunk up, down, on that F. Exactly the same. And then as we go into 21, measure 21 is actually exactly the same as measure 7, which should sound something like this. Right? Going with the G, I just played a G7 there. You could substitute that if you'd like, but more accurate to what's written on the tab, a G here. And you'll notice it's exactly the same. So measures 20 and 21 are exactly identical to 6 and 7 in every way. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now at this point, it repeats. And where it repeats to is all the way back to measure 4. And we'll go all the way through 4 until we get back to 20. And then instead of doing ending 1, we do ending 2, which is the outro. So let's go ahead and hear what this whole verse and chorus sounds like. Play it nice and slow, starting at measure 4, and then I'll talk through the repeat too. So starting with measure 4 should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... 20, which is the first ending, back to 4, right? Now I won't play through that whole thing again, just because it's quite long. You'll notice when you play it that slow, it kind of drags a little bit. It's easy to kind of rush too. Like sometimes you might accidentally only give 1 beat to a chord when it should have 2. These are very common problems when you're playing it slow. It's more important to develop the correct muscle memory with the left hand and right hand relationship so that you can speed it up. But once you go all the way through and you get to measure 18 on the second time, so this is 18 second repeat, instead of going on to measure 20 again, you go on to now section C, the outro. And this is just a fun, cool little riff. So the way we're going to play this is we're going to take our middle finger, place it on the 4th fret of the C string. We're going to take our index finger and bar it across the 3rd fret of the E and the A strings. We're going to play our C, E, then A string. Then we're going to stretch our pinky up to 7 on the A. So it goes. Then the next part of this measure, we're going to move our middle finger up to 5 on the C string, take our ring finger, collapse it underneath on 5 of the E, and our index here to 3 on the A. Notice how I sort of tilt my fingers towards my right shoulder. If you're left-handed, you'll face it to your left shoulder. But you'll notice that helps me squeeze them in. If I keep it too straight up and down, it's too much of a tight fit. So we're going to play C, E, A, being the strings, and then we're going to place our pinky on 8 of the A. It's okay if the shape breaks a little bit as you do that. It's a big stretch. So that measure 22 sounds something like this. I like to slow down as I'm playing this. I just think it sounds nice. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Also makes it a little easier when you slow down. And then from here we go on to 23. We take this shape that's right here and we just slide it up 2 frets. So middle finger on 7 of the C, ring on 7 of the E, index on 5 of the A. We're going to play our C, E, A. Pinky stretches all the way up to 10. And then we finish it all with some harmonics. Now, if you need more help with harmonics, there's a video down below to check out. But the gist of it is you're just going to lightly touch. You can use really any of these fingers to do it. I like to use my middle finger. Lightly touch right where the fret is. So you see the actual wire there. I'm going to touch the strings at that point. I'm not going to compress them at all. I'm just going to touch. I'm going to pluck those 2 strings. As soon as I feel the strings start to vibrate, I take my finger away. If you do it too early, you won't get a sound. If you do it too late, might be a little bit deadened. But that's the harmonic to kind of end it. Nice little cheesy ending. So measure 23 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again, I like to slow down the whole thing. So here's 22 and 23 for the whole outro, the 2 bars of it. I'm going to slow down a little bit because I like the sound of that so that you can hear how I like to play it. 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's a nice, cheesy, fun ending for a kind of cheesy, fun song. I had a ton of fun with this arrangement. It's deceptively simple for a lot of the parts, right? We never really go that high on the fretboard outside of the outro. It's only a few chords, so it's a lot of fun, and it really makes use of our high G string if you're strung that way. So, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'll look forward to seeing you guys next time for the next tutorial here on Rock Class 101. Thanks so much.
Alright guys, so this week's lesson was a ton of fun. It's one of those classic summer songs, and I gotta say that Matt's arrangement really encapsulated that feel-good summer vibes. So I hope you had a lot of fun learning this tune, and I want to give you a friendly reminder that if you did want to print the tabs to keep for your records, you can do so by clicking this link right here or visiting the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for Summertime Blues. Don't forget too, on the page is the really cool interactive on-screen tab player. So you can hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down to any speed, and all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.